Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Luis and I'm a medical student here in the Philippines, and today I'll be starting a new monthly series where I go over some of the favorite things that I use in my life as a medical student that I think will add value to your lives. This includes articles, apps, podcast series, books, and so much more. Also, please stick to the end of the video because I'll be sharing a surprise with all of you. Anyway, let's start the video. I started using Notion earlier this year when I saw a whole bunch of productivity YouTubers recommending it on their videos, so I decided to try it out for myself. It took me a while to figure out how to use it, but over the course of the quarantine, I managed to figure out how I could use it to track my academic requirements to make sure I could fulfill them. What I like about Notion, it has several templates that allow me to create, track, and organize several different kinds of projects. You can also download templates from online from other users, such as Mariana's Study Corner, Thomas Frank, so that if you like their workflow style, you can easily incorporate into your own. For example, I used Mariana's Study Corner for my academic planner, and I made some changes to adopt it to my style, but it provided a nice foundation for me to create my own planner that best suited my needs. And it's this level of customizability that allows Notion to boost my productivity in several areas of my work. For example, with my notes, it allows me to create them in such a way that I can apply the concept of active recall by creating questions for myself and hiding the answers underneath them. Also, it allows me to track my school requirements in an organized fashion where I can see what I have to do, what I'm currently doing, and what I've already accomplished. I like its utility to make to-do lists so I can easily track what I have to do for every day of the week. I'll be releasing a video soon on an in-depth look on how I use Notion for my schoolwork, so please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Thomas Frank is a productivity guru who started his career on YouTube through his YouTube channel College Info Beat, which he later renamed to his name. I first came across Thomas Frank's YouTube channel when I was in college and was very intrigued with the type of content he was creating. It makes a lot of content on productivity systems, note-taking, and study hacks that I find a lot of students will find helpful in their daily lives. I didn't really appreciate it at the time during my college days, but when I came to med school, his principles of productivity really helped me in organizing my time as a student so I could balance several aspects of my day. My recommended video for him is the Feynman technique, where he goes over how the technique was developed by physicist Richard Feynman and allows you better understanding of complex topics, which is super helpful when you're trying to learn things that involve a lot of processes. My next recommendation is the podcast Not Overthinking by the YouTuber Ali Abdal and his brother Timur. I first came across Ali's podcast when I was binging his YouTube videos, and he announced one day that he was starting a podcast with his brother. Although it's been over a year since he started the podcast, I only started listening to it recently, and only then I realized that I was missing out for so long. Because the content of this podcast is really fun to enjoy. Although they talk about a lot of different topics, they talk about in a very casual manner that prevents the listener from feeling excluded, and it feels like it's a conversation amongst friends. The podcast involves both of them having a conversation each episode where they give their insights on ideas they've stumbled upon from reading and browsing the web. I find that the podcast is very enlightening because they share their ideas on different issues that you wouldn't otherwise come across in more specialized podcasts. The episode I recommend you start out with is their episode on racism, social justice, and figuring stuff out, and their follow-up video to that where they discuss the responses they had to that episode. In these two episodes, they discuss their experiences growing up in a rather privileged background and how it affected their view on social justice and racism. They give their insights in the psychology of the discourse regarding these issues, such as identity politics and tribalism, which often affects the way that people behave when discussing this issue with people who don't share the same views as them. In the follow-up episode, they discuss these issues further based on the responses of their listeners, one of which is an older British gentleman who shares his experience of being a right-wing in his youth to becoming a left-wing later as he grew older. Last but not the least is my book recommendation for this month, which is the book Some Days You Can't Save Them All by Dr. Ronnie Baticulon, a pediatric neurosurgeon based here in the Philippines. I first learned about Dr. Ronnie Baticulon when I was a college student in UP, and I read a lot of his work from his articles on Rappler to his personal essays on his website, and also followed his Twitter account for a lot of med tidbits. But I didn't realize that I would actually become a student as a first-year medical student here in ASMPH, and as I was there, I found And he was also a really good speaker and could teach medicine in such a way that he could really make complex topics seem so simple. And it really helped me to understand the different biochemical pathways and the neuroanatomy. So when I found out he was having a book signing for the launch of his book, I was going to miss the opportunity to support one of my favorite teachers in med school. The book has a compilation of essays from Dr. Ronnie Baticulon. His essays document his medical journey from his time as a medical student all the way to his fellowship training in pediatric neurosurgery. One of his essays won him a Palanca Award back in 2018, which is the same title as the book, Some Days You Can't Save Them All. I like this book because it humanizes the experience that doctors go through, especially those working in a public hospital, where they face the reality of patients sometimes not being able to afford the healthcare they need. And despite that, Dr. Ronnie Baticulon shows that there's still some light in the dimness of the halls of our public health system in the way that he asks his patients, ano ang kwento mo sa akin ngayon? Dr. Baticulon reminds us that patients aren't simply names on a sheet of paper, but rather someone with feelings and concerns that extend beyond the four walls of the clinic. His book also gives some really good motivational advice for medical students, such as in his essay, A Letter to My Students. The greatest injustice you can do to yourself is to be mediocre. Do your best even if you have to make sacrifices. Even if you're afraid of failing. Even if people discourage you and you say otherwise. When you know you have done all that you can, there will be no room for shame, anger, humiliation, and frustration no matter what. I like this quote because it reminds us that we are in control of our performance in medical school and that there is no shame in trying our best regardless of the outcome. If you'd like a copy of his book, I've left links in the description for you to purchase his book on Lazada. And as a special treat, Dr. Ronnie Baticulon has provided a link where you can sign up to get a signed copy of his book. So if you'd like a signed copy of his book, Some Days You Can't Save Them All, like this one that I have here that I got from his book signing, you can fill up the Google form in the links in the description so he may provide you with a signed copy from him. So guys, that marks the end of my first installment of my monthly favorite series. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this content so you don't miss out on future episodes. My name's Luis, and see you guys in the next episode.